Good morning. We are here. Give us a moment. Happy Groundhog's Day. The cross-quarter point and the idea that that the movie, those of you who are not familiar with Groundhog Day, it is where the person relives the day over and over and over until they get it right. And it's not that it's a perfect day, although it does have much in the way of seeming like it's a perfect day. It is the most lived day. And that is something, as a theme, we want everyone to think about. What it means to be alive. What it means to be on the earth at this time and to be alive. What does it mean? Think about it for a moment. You all do it. You all have it. But how often do you really think about its nuances? Where did you come from? Where do you go? Where do those around you come from? Where do they go? You have this interesting technology that's out there now called Facebook, where people who you may only know casually now have put much of their life story in the virtual world, where you can know more about them than you would ever have known just being around them. You might not know, say, that someone plays guitar or has an interest in ancient technologies. You might not know another person loves the fairy realm and has interests in coaxing the fairy realm back into 3D. You might not know another person is very interested in monies and investing in all of these things. These are not things that you automatically know when you meet someone unless they share it with you. And that is part of life. The life that you are in has a lot to do with sharing. If you are not a sharing person, then no one knows anything about you. If you are, then people can learn a lot about you. And what this Facebook technology is doing, it is making people who would not normally share things share. And sometimes it has unexpected outcomes, not really what you were planning on. Maybe your future employer finds out that you like chugging scotch on Friday nights or something. Maybe that's not what you want that new employer to know. Maybe some future romantic person, you might find out that this person does something you totally hate. They like to climb mountains, and you think mountain climbing is crazy. You don't want someone in your life who could die falling off a mountain. It might be helpful to know that. You see, what we are saying is that the idea that you can be sheltered, that you can hide who you are, is really a very 3D thing. Very 3D thing. It is really part of what they call the veil. Yes, you have this veil between who you are and your higher self. You have this veil keeping you from seeing into the spirit realms, the non-physical realms, the elemental realms, many of you. But you also have this veil that keeps others from seeing who you are. And you from seeing who they are. And that's another veil that's dropping. And so here you have this election. You have Romney. You have Newt Gingrich. You have President Obama. And you as a people are learning much about who they are. More so than they might want you to know. But that is the time you are in. And so, keep that in mind. Life, the part of life that has been keeping, the part of the veil that has been keeping you from knowing more is dropping. There's a big concern now about fracking. Oh, the fracking is coming, the fracking is coming. Well, maybe it is. But one of the things that it won't be is it won't be hidden and shrouded in secrecy. What these people do will be out for everyone to see. Whether it is the chemicals that they are using, or what they are doing when they are doing it, whether or not they are causing problems with the environment, whether or not, understand? As long as they could do these things under the ground without you knowing and not caring, they could do whatever they wanted. Oh, what do they care if the containment well breaks? What do they care if the toxins they are putting in the ground cause an earthquake? No one can pin it on them. But what you are seeing now is a strong knowing that these activities have consequences. And that if you are going to be someone to go forward with them, you had better be dealing with the consequences. Whether it is drilling in the Gulf and not being able to contain a spill, or whether it is drilling in the ice of Alaska and not being able to contain an oil or a pipeline burst. This pipeline they want to build from Canada to Texas. How dare they just willy-nilly try to bring it through these wetlands, these places of aquifers and such? That is preposterous. But does it mean this project cannot go forward in a more balanced way? You see, that is what we are trying our best to help you see, is that there is a balance. You live, you die, the balance is in the middle, from when you were born to when you pass on. And if you can find and walk that balance, the Buddhists know this very well. The Buddhists have really done their best to bring this information to mankind. But moderation in all things. You're not here to be extremists. Whether it's extremists on the right, or extremists on the left, or extremists on the poor, or extremists on the rich. You are here to find that middle place where you can live your life in balance. Balance with nature, balance with the needs of your neighbors and the needs of yourself. Now, of course, maybe it might mean modifying what you think you need. Do you really need a big screen TV? Do you really need all of these gadgets and things? Do you really need all of that? You may want it, but do you really need it? You see, that is what the universe is really working towards. Bringing you to that place, that reset button where you go back to knowing, you go back to a balanced place. You go back to a place where before you stepped off the apple cart and started tumbling. And you can think of it as a reset point. You can think of it as a clearing the decks and bringing all the ingredients out again, whatever. Now, the earth has great ability to mend and affect change. Don't worry so much about the earth. Your puny little attempts on the planet are not going to kill this earth. It will knock you off before then. If that is your intention. This planet can go through a couple of million years of toxic environment. Did it before, it'll do it again, if needed. So, yes, definitely concern yourself with the environment and all of that, but don't think you're doing it for the planet. You're doing it for you. You're doing it for you and all your neighbors and all the people on the planet. You are the ones that are here affecting the ecosystem in a negative or positive way. The earth is very patient. The earth has an abundance of love for you. But don't kid yourself. Like a very large elephant, it could easily roll over and just crush you. Look at what happens in places where the earth decides to shake, or the earth decides to send a tsunami or something. Now, not all these things are natural, but that is not what we are talking about. So, Groundhog's Day, balance. Keep that in mind as you go forward. Because if you are extreme in any direction, then you are out of balance. You're not willing to see the effects of your extremism and how they do not bring balance. Now you might say, well, of course, the what is going on with the funding and the elections and stuff. Yes, this is a classic example of the lack of balance. But what is needed? Being able to see all that is going on. Transparency. Now, of course, you can legislate some transparency, but we are here to tell you that you are going to just have it. You're really going to be able to start to tell when you are being hoodwinked, bullshitted, or whatever. Ideally, all of you are really already there. You're just not giving over to the idea that your intuition has validity. Some of you are still holding tight to the idea that if it pops in my head and I have nothing outside to pin it on, it's just machinations. We're here to tell you that no, it's not just machinations. That you have a connection to a very, very, very knowledgeable resourcer. Whether it is bringing technology, bringing health information, bringing information for food production, whatever. That yes, you can go into the past and read the books, and yes, you can learn it in your schools, but a lot of it you're just going to know from walking in a forest, from walking along the beach, from splunking in some cave somewhere. All of a sudden, these glimpses of knowing will come to you. And as you begin to share these glimpses, you will find two things. One, other people had it too. There's a wonderful story our vehicle tells about when he was in a psychic class many years ago, where the instructor wanted to do telepathy. And he did this telepathy experiment where he had everyone close their eyes and meditate and breathe, and then he drew a picture on a blackboard behind a white screen. And then he projected that image out into the room and asked everyone to just feel and see what they get. And our vehicle got a very strong image of the sun and a mountain and some trees and a little house with smoke coming out of a chimney. But he was very shy to bring that up. He figured this was just machinations in his head. But when the instructor came forward and said, okay, what did people get? And all the others, there were like 35, 40 people in the room, all the others started saying things like, I saw a sun, I saw a mountain, I saw a chimney with smoke coming out. All of a sudden, our vehicle knew that he too had tapped into this. And it came as a shock to him. It was the ability of the others in that room to show him something he could not believe because they shared in the context of the class. And that kind of thing can happen for all of you once all of you begin to share what you know. Then you'll find others who will also say, I had a similar thing. This has already occurred much in the UFO communities with the abductions and things of this sort. But there are other kinds of things you will all be in knowing of. And many of you have your areas of expertise. That once you begin to share, you will begin to notice who is in that grouping with you. And these are the kinds of things that Facebook and other social medias are showing you are possible in the electronic world. Well, we are here to tell you if it's possible in the electronic world, it's possible in the psychic as well. More so, in spades. And so, see how you begin to hear things and learn things from what others discourse to you, others disclose to you. And see how much of it begins to really chime in with your dream state, with your intuitive knowings. Because what you are doing, what you are seeing is a breaking down of the rigid, three-dimensional brain barriers that have been built by your culture over millennia. We're not saying just the last few years. Many, many millennia. And whether they want to, you have the religious people who want to make it evil, or you have the scientifics who want to make it scientifically impossible. You sit there in the middle and say, I don't care what either of you say. This is what I see. This is what I know. This is what I discover through non-physical means, through the senses that I have beyond the 5 physical senses. And all of you will begin to discover that your entire body is a sensory organ, picking up information, whether it is your belly, your intestines, your big toe, all of it. It's one big wired up receiving device. You are like a big antenna. And so you will begin to really start to feel that balance calling you. Whether it is being called away from an extreme position to a more moderate place. Look at the Tea Party Republicans. They wish to drag you back to the 50s, to the 40s, to the 1850s and the 1840s. Oh, things were so much better then. Really? Really? But then you have the other extreme, trying to pull you into some kind of socialist utopia. And is that really where you are headed? Does that instill in people the desire to reach for their highest potential? Or does it create a lot of people who don't feel they have to do anything because everything comes to them? That is the Republican right-wing case against it. It has some validity. So as you can see, if you take the time to look, that all of these sides have little pieces of what is needed to come into balance. But the biggest one, and it's the one that's been kept from you all this time, is your discovery of your inner knowing. Your discovery of your belly and your ability to intuit, because only then can you really move into a place of power. Whether it means following that instinct to get the heck off the road so that when the 17-car pileup happens on the highway, you're not part of it. Maybe it means not even getting in the car that night because something told you don't drive now. These kinds of things are what you are. It is your birthright, and it has been denied you. And that you are seeing the walls that have been built in your cerebral cortex dissolve. Like walls of sugar would dissolve in hot water. So see that coming. See that energy that's coming from the sun and the Milky Way galaxy, central Milky Way galaxy, dissolving these false barriers these artificial barriers, and see yourself beginning to start to function in areas, in ways that your body has always been available to do, but the environment and the times have made it difficult. There have been those who have broken out. There have been many who have broken out. But your society is so rigid, has been so rigid, that these ones who break out, you ostracize and kill them. What is all that stuff about the witches? What were they? They were people who were, some of them who were already beginning to break out. But the religious community of that time put a stop to that. We won't have any of this. So, as you move further and further into 2012, see yourself like the Bill Murray character, learning and adjusting, and learning and adjusting. Learning that to falsely show affection does not work. Only when you show affection that is truly from the heart does it work. The last day that Mr. Murray has in that movie is a selfless day. Everything he does for everyone around him, and takes no credit for it. No intention to woo the girl into the bed or whatever. Just to be there in a loving way for all that are around him. Breaks him out of that cycle. See yourself learning from that example. It's been our pleasure. Good day to all of you.